Dolce had an international hit with a song with a frustratingly catchy chorus.
It's a not so bad, it's a nicer place, shut up for your face.
And 1980 was another challenging year for the Fraser government. Many of the problems it faced then are familiar today.
Illegal immigrants, new taxes, interest rates, keeping up the American alliance without paying too high a price for it.
The US alliance became increasingly important in 1980 as Cold War tensions deepened. The Soviet Union's recent invasion of Afghanistan ratcheted up the pressure.
Some feared that Afghanistan was the first stage of a major Soviet push into the Middle East that might end in a Third World War.
The invasion outraged Malcolm-Fraser. He backed an unsuccessful push by the US to boycott the Moscow Olympics. Ronald Reagan turned up the heat even further when he was elected later that year.
We will again be the exemplar of freedom and a beacon of hope for those who do not now have freedom.
Cabinet documents show the Afghanistan invasion led to a substantial increase in Australia's defence spending, and the military was put at a heightened state of readiness. F-111 strike aircraft were upgraded, purchases of ships and other aircraft were accelerated, and the Navy stepped up its patrols in the Indian Ocean. Cabinet also discussed buying a new aircraft carrier to replace HMAS Melbourne, and Australia offered the United States bases for its B-52 bombers in Darwin and Navy in Perth. But Cabinet was warned that could make Perth a greater target. The risk of nuclear attack might be increased, and this could disturb public confidence. Cabinet was even prepared to consider allowing nuclear-armed US aircraft to be based here. Aircraft would introduce nuclear weapons into Australia only if separate and specific agreement had first been given by the Australian government. But ministers were warned that Australia might get involved in US military operations we didn't back. Supporting common interests with so large a power as the US risks involvement beyond and perhaps in conflict with national interests. In October, Malcolm-Fraser faced the voters. The government's majority was halved, but it held on to power.
In my view, the 1980 election is the decisive turning point in Fraser's Prime Ministership.
And it was a turning point in the Labor Party's future. Bob Hawke won the Melbourne seat of Wills. Less than 3 years later, he would be Prime Minister. Richard Davis, World News, Australia.